Once you start using EFT for deeper work, you're likely going to experience situations where tapping doesn't seem to move the needle. This can happen when you're tapping on your own issues or when you're working with someone else. In this episode of EFT Tapping Junction, you and I will explore why this can happen and what you can do if it does. Stephen Carter here, your host for EFT Tapping Junction. You can learn more about my work, my background, and listen to previous episodes of EFT Tapping Junction by visiting EFT-MD.com, EFT-MD.com. This show is for you if you are using emotional freedom techniques or you use other tapping methods such as thought field therapy, trauma tapping technique, positive EFT, or other meridian tapping methods for your own self-care. This show is also for you if you're a therapist or coach helping others. Are there times EFT doesn't seem to work at all, or it only provides partial relief for certain issues? The answer to that question is yes. Why can this happen, and what can you do if it does? There are a number of scenarios that may lead to no or low success when applying any method, including EFT. The most frequent reason is you're tapping on a global issue rather than a specific memory or a narrow issue. As an example, let's say you frequently experience anxiety when in social or professional situations. You may use a setup statement such as, even though I have what I believe to be general anxiety disorder, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Your reminder phrase may be something like, this anxiety. As you tap through the points, you may experience temporary stress relief, but you're not likely going to banish anxiety permanently. Why? Because there are typically multiple aspects contributing to your sense of anxiety. You'll likely need to break the larger issue down into bite-sized memories, disempowering beliefs, or other emotional issues and deal with those one at a time. Since there are times we have all experienced anxious feelings, let's stick with general anxiety as our example. If you're driving or otherwise need to give full attention to your present activities while listening to this podcast, I suggest returning to this section when you can give your full attention to the process. Also, if you choose to apply the suggestions I share in this and all other episodes of EFT Tapping Junction, you are agreeing to take full, complete, and sole responsibility for your own well-being emotionally, physically, and mentally. Assuming you agree to take full, complete, and sole responsibility for your own well-being, let's begin. Bring to mind a situation where you felt anxious. Who was present? What were the circumstances? How did sensations present in your body? Note the beginning 0 to 10 subjective units of distress or SUDS rating for your memory. If you prefer, you can use a different rating system, such as the subjective units of experience, or simply use low, medium, or high. Write down the key aspects of that situation to include the who, what, when, where, and how. When recalling the event, is there one aspect of that situation that seems to be a trigger for feeling anxious? Note that and write it down. You may need to tap on the setting, on specific people, on what was said, on how something was said, or on your felt sense of the situation, or some other aspect of the memory of that experience. If you're familiar with both the tell the story technique and the movie technique, if your SUDS rating is high, the tell the story technique may be a better choice. If the memory you initially selected is especially troubling, for this exercise, I suggest choosing another experience with a lower SUDS charge. Once you feel confident with working through issues with SUDS levels of 6 or less, you can then tackle more challenging issues. Assuming you're able to tap through this one memory and you're able to reach a 0 or 1 SUDS rating, you will likely be ready to select another memory and repeat the process. As you continue the process, you'll likely notice a reduction in the frequency and intensity of anxiety episodes. Will this likely take time? Yes. Depending on the issue and your specific situation, you may notice progress for the larger issue in a few days, or it may take several weeks or longer. Does that mean you have to identify every memory or experience that contributes to the larger issue and tap every issue out? No. After zeroing out several of the contributing memories, your brain will likely get the message it's safe to let the larger issue go. Gary Craig, the creator of EFT, uses the metaphor of a table. Once you've taken out a small number of legs, the table collapses. Rather than chase contributing memories, another option is to apply positive EFT or the EFT choices method to create a compelling present and future. I'll have 2 prior episodes linked up in the show notes, one for the positive EFT method and a second for the EFT choices method. Whatever the large issue you're dealing with, continue to break it down into small bite-sized chunks and keep tapping those small chunks, keep tapping those chunks out. In all likelihood, you'll make significant progress on that large issue to a point where it no longer affects you or it rarely shows up. Also, if it feels as though you're not progressing after 2 or 3 rounds, take a break for a few hours or a day and again revisit the issue. In some cases, your energy system may need a few hours or a day or 2 to process the work. Other than trying to tap out too large an issue, are there other reasons tapping may not be totally effective? Yes, there indeed can be other reasons. As an example, a subconscious belief can block progress. I worked with a medical professional client who wanted to write a book. Every time she began, she felt strong resistance and simply could not make her fingers do the typing. We tapped on a variety of potential issues, all of which were somewhat related. These included self-worth, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, and there were a few others. We reached a SUDS level of 0 on all of these issues. Even so, she still felt significant resistance every time she sat down to write. I had the client voice the affirmation, "I choose to bring into conscious awareness any belief, memories, or fears creating or contributing to my resistance to writing this book." I then asked the client to simply tap slowly and silently, with an expectation that her subconscious would bring into conscious awareness whatever was blocking her from writing. There was no setup statement or verbalized reminder phrase. She simply tapped slowly with mindful awareness. After about 30 or 40 seconds, her eyes widened and she sat frozen in place for about 5 or 6 seconds before saying out loud, "I know what it is." She went on to say she felt a strong fear she would overshadow her husband if her book was successful. If that happened, she was fearful it could lead to the end of her marriage. She rated her SUDS level at a 9 or 10. We tapped through the various levels and related issues until she achieved a 0 on that main fear. Later that evening, she started writing with absolutely no resistance. Her book, well, it was picked up by a publisher, and it went on to become a bestseller. As a result, she became an in-demand speaker, a YouTube creator. That led to her being contacted by a major company for consulting work that has continued on for several years. We now have two potential success blocks: tapping on too large an issue and having progress blocked by an unconscious fear or belief. We deal with the first situation by breaking down the bigger issue into small bite-sized aspects and tapping those down. One way to deal with identifying hidden beliefs or fears is to create an affirmation and an expectation communicated to the unconscious, asking that blocking beliefs or fears be made conscious, and then tapping those down, just as I did with the client who experienced resistance writing her book. In my experience, the two most likely blocks to progress are trying to tap down an issue that is too large to deal with without breaking it down into smaller chunks, and unconscious fears and beliefs. There is a third block identified by Dr. Roger Callahan, the creator of thought field therapy. He labeled that as energy toxins. Dr. Roger Callahan was a California psychologist who created thought field therapy. Gary Craig was a student of Roger Callahan. After working with Roger, Gary simplified thought field therapy and he created emotional freedom techniques. Gary popularized EFT, and he was responsible for bringing tapping to an audience of millions. So what is an energy toxin? Typically, it's a chemical compound, a food item, physical item, laundry detergent, personal care product, or even strong electromagnetic fields that can sometimes interfere with successful tapping. This situation is rare, but it does occur. It can be a one-off problem, or it may be an ongoing issue. The obvious solution is to eliminate the offending energy toxin, assuming you can identify what that toxin is. Actions you can take include moving to another room when tapping, going outside and apply tapping, or wash off makeup and any perfumes. In extreme cases, you can try tapping when you're in the shower to eliminate the possibility that your clothes may be the problem. Again, energy toxin reactions to the point where tapping is ineffective are rare, because energy toxin mitigation beyond what I just shared can be highly involved and may require muscle testing or other methods. For our purposes now, simply be aware energy toxins may be a factor in blocking tapping success once other potential blocks are ruled out. In the vast majority of cases, if tapping isn't giving you the results you're looking for, the problem will likely be you're tapping on too big an issue, or there are other factors operating on a subconscious level. In summary, the three blocks that can sometimes affect progress are: 1. Attempting to tap on too big an issue. What do? We break a global or stubborn issue down into small chunks and tap through those smaller chunks. A second challenge: unconscious beliefs or fears. What do? Use affirmations and expectations to tease out blocking beliefs or fears. When conscious, tap those beliefs or fears out. Number 3, energy toxins. Your energy system can sometimes be affected by chemicals, laundry detergent, personal care or other products, one or more food items, beverages, electromagnetic fields, or other items. If you suspect an energy toxin may be affecting your energy system, do what you can to eliminate the source and again address your issue. As mentioned, this is a rare occurrence, but it's worth keeping in mind as a possibility when you've addressed other potential blocks. If the suggestions I've shared in this episode don't lead to improvement, I suggest seeking help from a qualified practitioner. If you have specific questions about any of the information I've shared so far, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com. Let's move into topic number 2 for this episode, my plans for this show moving forward. Since launching this podcast 2 years ago, I've published 26 episodes. There have been tens of thousands of downloads from more than 25 countries for those 26 episodes. It's clear EFT and other energy psychology methods are popular around the world. I thank you for listening and applying the techniques I share in these episodes. I'll be making some major changes in my focus beginning next month. One of the major changes will be a shift from client work and group training to the creation of additional podcast and video resources to promote holistic well-being. I'll share more details about these changes and what they may mean for clients and listeners to this show and to other podcasts. I'll share that information in future episodes. Speaking of other podcasts, I recently released the audio version of my conversation with Julia Forrest Payne, a longtime energy healing practitioner, and I released that in the most recent episode of Energy Healing for Wellbeing podcast. In this new episode, you can learn about and personally experience a method called Seraphim Blueprint Healing. I'll have that episode linked up in this episode's show notes. I also want to extend an invitation to you to join the Energy Healing Network Facebook group. We have more than 500 members from around the world. Members include professional practitioners, people who use holistic methods for self-care, and others who are beginning to learn about the benefits of energy psychology and energy medicine methods. If you are on Facebook and would like to join the group, simply search for Energy Healing Network and apply. I'll have the direct link to the Energy Healing Network group in this episode's show notes. I encourage you to share this episode with others who you believe could benefit. You can, of course, subscribe or follow at zero cost wherever you get your podcasts, and by visiting EFT-MD.com, EFT-MD.com. Once on the site, click the EFT Tapping Junction tab. If you would like to comment on this or any other episode of EFT Tapping Junction, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com. Until our next visit, your host here, Stephen Carter, asking you to tap into joyful living, one tap at a time. Blessings to you and your loved ones. Namaste.